Hey guys, we're just opening this up early. My name is Lou Puschelberg, and I'm here with Jason Campbell.
I forgot my name there for a second.
Sorry, I just got distracted by this little pop-up there. We just want to do a quick test. Just come on early here. I know it's only 6:50 Eastern time, but we just want to make sure our audio is clear, our video is clear. So let us know in the comments, guys, if everything is coming through clear. We're also here with our colleague Liz Haluwage. She's working behind the scenes, so she's going to be taking your questions and all your comments today. So Jason and I just wanted to open it up before the stream officially kicks off at 7. See if you guys have any questions. We're just kind of a little fireside chat, talk about what's been going on in virtual reality lately, and share that info with you guys.
Cool.
So yeah, Jay, what's been happening lately?
Did you see that Valve was going to release the trackers now?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have the Vive headset here.
Your screen's kind of opposite.
Oh, just gonna fix a quick, oh, that's kind of weird. Fix a quick setting here. Okay, Liz, let me know if this fixes it. Just make sure our video is really good for you guys. Liz, let me know if that fixes it. If not, we can try something else. So Valve recently just released the trackers for the Vive. So what would they really say? It's going to become a commercial product now?
I guess so, yeah. And then also there's the talk of HTC making a new headset, standalone headset like the Go,
the Vive, the Vive Focus.
Didn't fix it.
So it's your actual desktop?
It's my
When you minimize, like...
Check the, I know what it is, it's probably this.
this OBS.
OBS, yeah. Is it? Yes, it's in the wrong place.
I see. So if we expand this,
Yeah, scale that up. Yeah.
oops, not too far.
There we go, perfect.
All right, let us know if that fixes it. Sorry, guys, just worked through a few. That's why we start early. So the trackers came out, and the trackers are like little hockey pucks, or it didn't come out, but they announced some news about them coming out that you can put on other objects and bring them into your virtual space. So just type into Google Vive Tracker if you want to check that out. It's pretty cool new technology from Vive. I know Logitech was using it to bring a keyboard into Vive or into VR. Just type in Vive Tracker if you're interested in that. And then the Vive
Swanky site.
Focus, yeah, really swanky. But the Vive Focus only came out it's only coming out in China.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay, that's disappointing.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
So again, for those of you that don't know, we've got the Vive here. That's what we're going to be focusing on in today's workshop. The Vive is made by HTC and Valve. It's a pretty high-powered virtual reality headset, but Vive recently announced that they have a new headset coming out called Vive Focus, which will be untethered, so no wire, which is really cool. No smartphone, kind of like, I guess to compete with Oculus's headset, which is called Oculus Go.
Yeah.
$200 headset, wireless, no phone, just all in one.
Should be cool. I'm actually kind of curious. I can't wait to see it in person and try it out.
Yeah, it'd be really cool. So I mean, that's exciting. There's always big news happening in VR. That's what's really exciting about working in this industry is you're riding on the shoulders of giants being Facebook, Valve, HTC, Google, have all these crazy product announcements all the time, and you kind of got to be part of that excitement.
Yeah, absolutely. You get to try new things. Also, feel free to ask us questions right now if you have any questions that you want to preemptively get out. We'll also answer questions at the end of the... Oh, we already have one?
No.
Oh, no, we don't have one. Oh, nice. Where are you guys from? Yeah, that's cool. Texas. All right. I was in Texas working on a museum exhibit just a few months ago.
Whereabouts in Texas? From Dallas, Houston, Austin?
Miles, Texas.
Texas.
I was in Houston, Texas.
Cool. I was in Dallas last year, too. It's hot.
Oh, nice.
Master's student from where?
Whereabouts you from?
Also in Texas.
All right, Texas.
Couple master's
Texas
students.
representing today. All right.
Everything is big in Texas. I remember even going to the airport and like getting these from the gift shop, these jelly beans, giant Texan jelly beans. They're like the size of like an apricot or something.
The museum I was working at was huge and it was awesome. Actually, it was a wicked museum. It was called the Lone Star Flight Museum. It's huge, and you could like fly the planes too. They had like World War II planes and stuff, and you could fly them around. Pretty cool. Oh, we got more questions. No, these aren't questions. These are just comments. High school art teacher. All right.
High school art teacher, awesome, welcome. Where are you from? Let us know where you guys are from. All we have so far is Texas. Our whole stream's from Texas. Let us know if you guys are from the U.S., from Canada, Mexico, Europe, Asia.
Yeah, and what your familiarity with VR is too. Whether you're just a beginner or you just want to get an overview, whether you're here for the full 9 yards tour. We're going to kind of give you an idea as we go what we're showing today, but there's just a lot of possibilities out there in VR right now.
Yeah, let us know what you guys' interest is and what kind of angle you're approaching this from. I had a really interesting conversation actually recently with my uncle, actually, who's a designer and interior designer and architect. And, a lot of, VR news gets put out about VR being used in the design process.
Yeah.
And he actually brought an interesting perspective, and he was saying, like, in interior design or in architecture, sometimes it actually, where it might be beneficial for the client to view like an architectural piece or building in VR, sometimes actually for the person doing the work, like the architect or the designer, it could actually be a bit of a burden because they have to do more. They now, like, for instance, like at least in his position where they might do the drawings kind of loosely and present the drawings to the client. Now they have to design everything in VR down to every last detail.
Oh, I see.
So for his firm,
It ups the expectations.
it ups the expectations.
Oh, interesting.
So it was a really interesting conversation because, again, in news, popular press, it's like architecture, design is going to fundamentally change these industries, but usually there's a layer you have to dig a bit deeper and really see how and where it's going to add value to them.
Yeah, definitely. I can see clients are getting more out of it. But you're right, there's also, like, with just an architectural drawing, there's kind of a sense of mystery to it.
Yes.
So you lose that mystery by...
So I was saying to him, I was like, this is great. Now you can show your clients can see, exactly how to, walk through a building or a space. And he said, that's horrible for us because now we have to actually design the space before we build it, like, months in advance, down to every last detail. And the clients can get way more nitpicky with the actual, the work that we're doing.
I have to say, though, I've had a lot of students that have worked on different VR projects, and a lot of them are architecture-based.
Yeah.
And I kind of like the austere interiors that they, when you don't have enough time to build the interior out. So
Right.
It's kind of like a very flat walls, plain colors, but you get a feel for the space.
Right.
And I think it adds kind of like an aesthetic to it. So I don't know if you still have that mystery there because you don't know what's going to go on those walls. You don't know what's going to change.
Right.
You have a better idea of the space.
Right. Of the space, for sure.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, I can see like clients are now like, oh, why is there no vase on the corner table over there?
Yeah, so he's in interior design, so that's what he was saying is, everything down to like every last detail. And for them, that's so much work to pre-plan.
I can
Yeah.
imagine like the broom in the corner would be an issue as well.
Where's the broom? What?
We got some Detroit. Awesome.
Detroit, welcome from
Toronto?
Detroit. Toronto.
All right. Oh, these took them all away.
Yeah, let us know where you guys are from. We're just, we'll start here in about a minute, but we're just opening it up to questions, to get to know you guys, what part of the country you're coming in from or the world, and then also why are you interested in VR? Why are you interested in this workshop tonight? What ideas do you have? What field of work are you in? Always interesting to hear different perspectives from people. Is that did someone link that? Sounds
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now.
it's the best way to create, social VR. All right, it's 7 o'clock. Jay, you good to go?
I'm good to go. Oh, that means I leave.
No, you could stay. We got to do your introduction. So, hey guys, welcome. It's 7 o'clock Eastern, so we're going to officially kick off the workshop. My name is Lou Puschelberg, and I'm here with Jason Campbell. Jason is going to lead the technical portion of tonight's workshop. So welcome if you're just tuning in. Don't worry, you just missed a bit of a fireside chat. We were just kind of hanging out, taking questions, hearing where people are from. So if you are just jumping in, feel free to use the chat throughout the workshop. If you have questions, just throw them in there and we'll answer them all at the end. But without that, let's jump into it.
All right.
So like I said, my name is Lou. I'm the co-founder of Academy VR. This is the third VR startup company that I've worked on. Really our success or our motto here at Academy VR, and you see these shirts, Circuit Stream. Not to confuse anyone, this is a new brand that we're rolling out with soon to expand into augmented reality. But our motto is that your success in VR is really our success. So when we're teaching our courses, when we're working with our participants and our students, it's all about helping you guys build the applications that you need and helping you either become a VR developer, VR designer, VR content creator, storyteller, entrepreneur, or business. So our goal really, Jason and I and the whole team here at Academy VR is to help one of our students create the next global virtual reality business or company or application which reaches thousands of millions of customers around the world. So between today is November 16th and we have a new course beginning on November 28th. There's going to be 12,000 new headsets sold, which is a really exciting opportunity. As our opportunity grows, your opportunity grows, and this whole market is really on the upswing. So we're going to dive into those figures a little bit later in the presentation, but it's an exciting time to be in VR, so thanks for tuning in today. So like I said, hopefully we can help provide you the resources if you're starting a startup, joining a startup, or internally for your company, whether you're starting your own consultancy or as a VR freelancer, or if you want to become a developer. Many developers in VR are making six-figure salaries working along the West Coast or along the East Coast. And Jason Campbell is one of those developers. So he's a professional virtual reality and augmented reality developer. He's worked on most major headsets, Oculus 5, HoloLens, augmented reality platforms for Apple, Google, a series of companies, both big and small. So it's my privilege to have him as one of our instructors. There's him in the Oculus, and to have him leading the session tonight. I learn a lot from him every day and every time we run one of these sessions, so I know you guys will as well. If you need to reach me at any point after the session, feel free to just send me an email, lou@academyofvr.com. If you want to talk about the courses, the industry pricing, if this is something that's right for your business. I'm an open book, and like I said, our success in VR is really all about your success. So any questions you have, just shoot me an email at lou@academyofvr.com, and we can make sure we get those answered. So what do we do? What is Academy of VR? We offer courses and corporate training for helping working professionals and companies learn how to make AR and VR apps. And we pride ourselves on one-on-one instruction. So we know that different people have different goals that they want to achieve, and that to make sure that we help you achieve those goals, that really you need a solution tailored to you. So a lot of our courses, a lot of our work is focused on bringing professional instructors to you so that you can learn from the best in the industry in a personal way. So you might be asking, what have we done to date? How long have we been around? Academy of VR has been around for 2 years. Last year, we taught over 500 students offline, and then this year we've taught about another 100. So cumulatively, we've taught over 1,000 people how to get started in virtual reality and augmented reality. Now to dive into some technical stuff. We teach all of our courses in a platform called Unity. For those of you that don't know, Unity is a creation tool. It's used by artists, designers, developers, businesses, as well as a whole bunch of other fields. And it's really the easiest way to get started making apps for augmented reality and virtual reality. Unity is free, and it works on all the major headsets. So everything from Google Cardboard, Google Daydream, Samsung Gear VR, Oculus, PlayStation VR, HTC Vive, augmented reality. So this is Microsoft HoloLens, ARKit by Apple, AR Core by Google. Unity works across all the headsets. So it's really the one-size-fits-all solution. That's what we teach in our course. It's the industry standard, and we work with people on all these different headsets, really from the low end all the way up to the high end. The alternate to Unity, is Unreal. Also a great platform for building virtual reality and augmented reality apps. But today we're going to be focused our session on giving you guys a bit of a crash course in Unity. So to give you some more info on our courses, they run part-time for 10 weeks, 3 hours weekly, then plus 1 hour every week for one-on-one help on your personal project or idea. So that's really where we become your own personal VR consultant, coach, mentor, marketer, business coach, during that one-on-one time, we really try to get you off the ground. Regularly, the price of that 10-week course is $2,500, but remind me at the end of today's workshop that I'm going to include a discount for you guys. So everyone's wondering who's taking our courses. I'm sure many of you have been to New York City. We're actually working with an airport designer who's designing a new terminal for LaGuardia Airport in New York. So we're helping them bring those 3D models into virtual reality. So really, really cool professional taking our course in a really unique field. We've worked with people like filmmakers, chemical engineers, web developers, IT professionals, educators, architects, designers, so everything under the sun. VR is applicable in a lot of different fields. So if you don't fit into any of these categories, don't worry guys, we're excited to work with you in kind of the field that you have in mind or that you're currently working. So if this is something, virtual reality, augmented reality is something you've been thinking about, I would really encourage you guys, go for it. Your timing is perfect. Now is the time to jump in and start learning Unity. These are valuable skills which are going to be valuable as the technology, as the more headsets sell and this platform continues to grow. So Jason and I are Canadians. We're here in Vancouver. I think it was Wayne Gretzky has this famous quote, or some famous hockey player that we have to say as Canadians, and that's that you miss every shot that you don't take. So again, if this is something that you want to do, go for it. All right, so I want to jump into today's outline. I'm going to start by sharing Academy VR's story. Then I'm going to share some insight, what we learned helping start 3 VR companies. Jason is going to dive into some technical introduction, how you actually create an app for the HTC Vive, which is this headset right here. Then Jason is going to share, we have an iPad here. So Apple has this augmented reality platform called AR Kit. So Apple is diving into VR and AR. So we're going to share how you actually build an augmented reality app for the iPad. Then finally, we're going to wrap up with some next steps, resources, and questions. And like I mentioned at the beginning, if you guys do have questions, just throw them in the chat and we'll get them answered, maybe at a halfway mark or maybe at the end of the session. So today, like I mentioned, you're going to learn how augmented reality and virtual reality apps are made in Unity. Then we're going to share some insights and finally some resources to help you get started publishing your own content. So I want to start first off with my story. How did Academy VR basically originate? How did this all get started? So a couple years ago, I found the original Oculus Kickstarter. Like many people, Jason had a DK1, I had a DK2, and I tried this virtual reality app called Surge and was just in wonder at the possibilities of this medium. So I immediately booked a trip, like literally days later, to visit some of the largest virtual reality hubs along the West Coast. So Vancouver, Seattle, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, where I visited places like Stanford. So Stanford's been doing VR research for over 20 years. They have this lab called the Virtual Human Interaction Lab. And in the lab, they used to have this $10,000 headset, which is now being replaced by a $300 Oculus Rift. So this is me in Stanford's Virtual Human Interaction Lab. Also went to places like USC, where a famous researcher named Mark Bolus has been doing virtual reality research for the military. Oculus was actually invented out of USC. And then companies like Valve, Oculus, and Google. These were all companies that I was actually interviewing on behalf of a startup. So I was working for the startup at the time called Converge. Here's a screenshot of Converge. And we had this interview with the founders of Tiltbrush, which for those of you who haven't tried it is kind of like Photoshop for virtual reality. It's now owned by Google. Anyways, we had this interview with the founders of Tiltbrush in a seminar exactly like this. And just to give you guys perspective about how early this was in VR's life cycle, we only had 58 users in the seminar, and this was held at Google. So there I am in this Converge event, and that's kind of how I got kickstarted in VR. So during this time, I met Jason, and we had been kind of thinking about what the next big platform was, and we're both big believers in virtual reality and augmented reality, but realized that it's still really, really difficult to learn how to make apps for virtual reality and augmented reality, and not only difficult to learn, but to also stay connected to new knowledge that's coming out in the industry and kind of stay on the leading edge. So we pretty much made our mission to start teaching courses, and that's what we began doing. This is Jason teaching one of our local workshops last year. Here I am, another one of our instructors, Dan, another one of our instructors, Amanda. All these, we talked about the 1,000 students, so these are just some of them. Here's Jason at the Microsoft store. again, all these students that we've worked with across the country. So that's us. That's our story, kind of how we got to where we are today. Now I want to share one of the biggest insights that I think Jason and I have gleaned, reflecting back a year ago to where we're at in virtual reality today. And that's this distinction between enterprise and consumer virtual reality. So really where a lot of the opportunities lie in VR are business applications. So we have peers here in Vancouver who've been using the HTC Vive. Again, that's this headset to make a surgery training app, and then they sell that app to surgical educational institutions. Similarly, there's a company here in Vancouver called Archiact. They're now over 75 people. They're growing, they're hiring, and they're making virtual reality apps for businesses. And then finally, another company out of Vancouver and San Francisco, LNG Studios, purely focused on using virtual reality for architects. So here are some of the other areas where we see the biggest opportunities for growth, everything from real estate to engineering, design, medical, education. The list just keeps growing and growing and growing. And as you guys can see, I'm running out of bullet points here. And this doesn't even scratch the surface of design, user experience, user interface design, and what it kind of means to interface with a computer in VR. So now I want to dive deeper into some of the technical stuff. So I'm going to turn it over to Jason, and Jason's going to give you guys an introduction to Unity, which again is a platform that we're teaching in our courses. Jason's going to show you kind of how you can get started in Unity to create some basic apps for the Vive and then for Apple's AR kit.
Awesome. Thanks, Lou. Gonna hand me over the reins here. All right, so Lou mentioned that I do development in VR. I'm a VR developer. I work for a lot of contracts. I work for a couple big companies, and right now I'm just going to show you how to get your own kind of application running very simply, very fast, and how you can kind of build out your own ideas. So this is just a taste, but it's to show you how straightforward and how quickly you can actually get VR working and running with you. So I'm just going to open up Unity, go through all these wonderful things here, and get it going. So I'm using 2017.1. The latest is 2017.2, but if you want to use the Microsoft latest headsets, you have to use 2017.3, the beta. So I'm actually going to open up my webinar demo because I downloaded a couple things in advance. I didn't want to sit here and let you guys watch me download a few pieces, but I'll let you know what those are and how you can get going on your own too. So this is Unity. It looks scary to start, but I have to tell you, I promise that it looks scarier than it is. In the bottom here, this project window, this is really just a representation of our drives, our folder drives that we see here. So if I go ahead and select any of these things, and I'm just going to right click and show you what it looks like. It's actually just a folder. You can see it's connected to it. It's got all my parts, and all these things correspond to that folder. So you can see that these windows, although they look big and scary, are actually all representative of the same thing. Now the three major windows that we're going to interact with, and the ones you'll probably use the most, are the hierarchy, this one on the top left here. This is what are called game objects that go in here, and it represents a scene. In the middle here, this is the scene view. This is the area that you can see a visual representation of what you're creating. And on the far right, you see this inspector option over here. So if I select an object in my hierarchy, you'll see that it shows what I'm selecting inside my scene here. And then on the right side here, the inspector tells me more details about that object. So Unity kind of follows this principle where there's game objects, and the game objects are built out of components. Kind of like if you were building something from scratch, you'd start with a base, which is just a position, and then from there you build on top, add the pieces that you need to be able to build something. So on the left here we have our game object, and on the far right we have the components of that game object. So this is just a light, but if I wanted to make something like a cube, all I have to do is right click and do 3D object cube, and you'll see a cube just appears in front of me. So by default, Unity doesn't run virtual reality. If I press play right now, it's going to actually test the game. So right now my game is just a camera that's floating here, a light and a cube. And if I press play, you'll see that I just see this cube floating in space. So this isn't virtual reality. This is just a normal desktop application. But if we wanted to make our own desktop application, it's actually really straightforward. Our own virtual reality application is pretty straightforward. So I'm going to stop pressing play, go into edit, project settings, and player. And now if you're running 2017.12, you'll see at the bottom of these, there's a bunch of little these pull-out menus, folders. At the bottom, there's one that says XR settings. So XR settings is what you're going to want to select if you're in 2017.12 or 2017.2, sorry, or 2017.3. But for us, it's everyone else, it's other settings. And then you go down to where it says virtual reality supported and just ticks that box and make sure it says open VR. And then when I have open VR selected, you'll see that I can actually press play now, pick up my headset, and presto, I am seeing in VR. And actually, if I look through here, I can see the cube, and in all of its glory, it looks like a cube. Probably pretty straightforward. Probably could have guessed that. So we also have, you'll notice up here, there's this build option for Android. And that means that if you are building for an Android application, that you can use this kind of stuff to build for Gear VR, Daydream, for Cardboard, all of these things. It's the same idea. You just go into the selection and you slide on down until you see the virtual reality supported, tick it, and then you can add to that your Cardboard, Daydream, or Gear VR, which is Oculus. I'm just going to untick it because I don't need it. So that's the very basics of me getting into VR and playing it. But most of our games are not, or most of our applications are not going to follow that kind of a principle. Obviously, we're going to have more to it than this. So we want to kind of create something that has some interactions like Job Simulator. Job Simulator is a game that kind of plays a joke on the simulation strategy of games. You pick up objects and you play around with them, and it's really just a joke. You can do things like eat a burrito to exit. But it gives you kind of a first experience. It's one of the kind of first games that was released on Vive, and it's a fantastic game if you get a chance to try it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this interaction here. So I'm going to change this cube to be kind of a floor object. I'll make another cube here. And then I'm just going to increase this, scale it out. And you'll see I can manipulate all these objects. Oops, I'm not going to make it that crazy large. So I can manipulate all these objects by grabbing the transforms, move them around. I can rotate these objects. I can scale them even in different ways. I'm going to undo all that though. But I'm going to make my life easy here and not use the camera that's default in here, although ultimately in the course we kind of teach around building it from scratch. But here we're going to teach you, we're just going to use an SDK. So an SDK is something that's provided by the companies that allows us to make our lives easier to make for their devices. So I'm going to use the one that's for Vive. All I have to do that is I've downloaded in advance. I've gone to the asset store. So the asset store is super useful if you're trying to build out a game or an application. I've used it on many times myself. It's other developers and other artists that are making applications that they're selling on store for you to be able to use. A lot of them are free. A lot of them are things that you can build or use in your games. But we're going to use one that's called Steam VR. So if I just search Steam VR here, you'll see it pop up. This is provided by Steam. And if you don't know who Steam is, you should definitely look them up. Steam is a very large company, and they have worked in conjunction with HTC to be able to create this headset right here. So the other thing, if you were making for Oculus, there's the Rift. There's also a Rift SDK. So I just downloaded this in advance. I'm not going to download it now because I already have it. Now I'm going to go back to my scene. You'll see it shows up as these folders here. And with that, they provide to me this wonderful prefab called a camera rig. And if I drop this in the scene anywhere, and I press play now, I'm just going to turn these on. You'll see I have these wonderful controllers that are now tracking their position and orientation, and it's kind of funky because these are not the best setups for Revive, but I guess I should put this on. Okay, I'm going to put this on. So now I have a representation of my controllers in virtual reality. You can see that they're good and accurate. They can bump my face. I can pull the triggers. You can see this. And I haven't written a single lick of code yet. We're going to get into a little bit of code, just teach you what there is. But really, this is the basics of getting things going and me interacting in virtual reality. So that was provided for me, and it's all pretty straightforward. And we're going to make it a step further because right now we can't do anything. I can't interact with this cube, which I put too far away from me. And but we're going to allow it so we can. So let's hop in and do that. So I'm going to stop this guy from playing again. And I'm just going to make it work. I'm going to move my cube down first of all because that was really far away. A little bit closer to me. And now the nice thing about what I just dragged in here, this camera rig, you can see it shows up in my hierarchy as an object I can manipulate. And so it has my left controller and right controller. And if I want to put something on it and like track the position, all I have to do is make it a child of this. I'm just going to show you what that looks like. So you can see, and if I press play. So again, this terminology may be a little bit unfamiliar to you guys, but don't worry, it's something that we teach in the course, and it's something you'll pick up over time in Unity. If you want to, there's a bunch of resources we send out at the end for Unity tutorials and things that you can do. So you can see I'm holding the sphere now over my hand, and as I move my hand, it's a giant sphere. It's a meter by a meter. It's moving along the screen. So I'm going to actually take that sphere away because it's way too big. But you'll see like that, I've kind of created this idea of having something or some way to show my hands in representation. And if you use the Oculus Rift SDK, they actually do have a hands avatar that comes with it. It's part of the built-in SDK, makes your life a lot easier. So what I'm going to do for this right and left controller here is I'm going to make it so we can pick up this cube in the scene, because what the heck, I want to do something like that. So I'm going to take my left controller, and I'm going to use a bunch of pieces that Unity provides to us, makes our lives 1,000 times easier, and then just one set of code, and I'll show you a little bit about it, that we write for the course, but you can kind of see what it looks like and get an idea of how coding works in Unity. It's very, very straightforward. So this is a code right here that's provided by Steam, and I'm going to add a new one and call it, what am I going to call it? Nope, I'm going to look for a collider. So a collider is basically a representation of a physical object. So this sphere, I'll make this a sphere collider, and this is showing us, if I zoom in really close in the scene here, this kind of green sphere that's showing up here, that's the area in which my hand can interact with an object. So I'm going to decrease it. So right now it's 0.5 meter in radius. I'm going to decrease it to something like 10 centimeters in radius. That way you can see it shrank down that object, and it'll decrease the range at which I can interact. Now there's another piece I want to do here on this collider. I'm just going to tick is trigger, and this is going to make it a little bit different. It doesn't interact physically with other objects. It's used to trigger some event or action. I'm going to add another component here, and I'm going to say a rigid body. Now, a rigid body is really just allowing me to interact with physics. One of the first things whenever I ever wrote a computer game was writing my own physics. I was so scared of doing. But actually, Unity takes that pressure away from you. It makes it so that you don't have to write the physics. Physics is handled by Unity, these colliders, and these rigid bodies, and it's really straightforward from there. So I'm going to untick use gravity because I don't want this to actually be a physical object and my hand fall off all the time. I'm just going to say it is kinematic so that it follows this rigid structure. And now the last piece I'm going to add is that little bit of code. I'm going to hit add component here, and it is VR input 5. There it is. So right now you can see it's tracking my left hand, but I'm just going to change it, or my left eye. I'm going to change it to my, which controller is this, left hand. So now it's going to be able to follow my hand around, or this is tracking on my left hand, and it's going to be able to keep track of what buttons I push. Now the other thing I'm going to do is, the last thing I'm going to do is add to this cube one little piece, and that's a VR interactable object. So if I wanted to interact with this, I don't want to interact with the ground, so I'm giving this a special designation. I'm just going to call it a picked up object. So there we go. I have now a way to interact with this, and let's see what it looks like. And then, as promised, I'll show you a little bit of code and what it looks like, and why it's not so scary. Code's not as scary as everyone thinks it is. All right, there we go. I have my hands. Here they are. If I reach over, oops, I didn't set up my left hand. I can only do my right hand. So I can reach in with my, or this is my left hand, reach in with my left hand, and I can grab it with the trigger, and here we go. I have a cube. Kind of cool. This is my cube. I don't know what to do with it. I'll just leave it there. Let's put it down. All right, I made a cube. Now, as you saw a little earlier, I talked about physics before I hop into the code. If I wanted to make this work with physics, this cube that I've created, all I have to do is hit that rigid body component. And I'm going to press play. And where the heck did it go? There it is. I have it. And now it's playing like it's a physics object. It's just bouncing around, doing its own thing. Okay, cool. Now I'm inside the cube. But at least I got it there. So Unity uses, in the kind of the back end part where we're scripting, C#. C# is a very common language. It's used a lot for Microsoft. It's very useful. It's an object-oriented language. If you're familiar with Java, it's a very easy transition into C#. If you're familiar with C++, C# and object-oriented languages make your life 1,000 times easier. Or I guess it is object-oriented language, but it makes it even easier. So I'm going to go in and hop into my pickup script here. I just want you to see what it looks like. This is Visual Studio it's going to run in. If you're on a Windows machine, you'll probably run a Visual Studio. If you're on a Mac, then it'll run Mono Develop or Visual Code if you want to set it up that way. And both are great IDEs. Okay, that's fine. It's running my old stuff. Did not like that. Okay, we're going to rerun it. Oh, Apple Bloom is not what I wanted to open actually. Here we are. I'm just going to go to that VR picked up object. So this is my script that I'm using to pick up objects. And you see this isn't even a page in length for picking up this object. So it's just essentially a few functions, and we're not even really using all these. And this is how we cover picking up and dropping objects. And we cover C# in the course, but this is specifically the kind of like straightforward stuff that you'll see here. So as simple as when we change the color, this is this one line right here. And that's all that's doing is changing the color of my object. And like that, it's pretty straightforward. So I always think of code as like you're writing a story. If you can write a story, you just tell it in a line, and then things kind of happen. So we're going to send you at the end of this a bunch of tutorials that like Unity provides. And if you follow along, I promise you, it's not as scary as it looks. Unity has a lot to offer in their courses too. So take a chance to kind of mess around and build your own. I'm going to show you, take a step further here. I've only written one more set of code here, or one more part of code, and I am actually created a scene here, and I didn't make this scene. I'm not a great artist. I have to rely on a lot of good artists and designers to be able to create things, but this is actually an asset that I bought inside the asset store to be able to run this little game. If I press play, I just wanted to show you what I can make relatively quickly. And here I have a bow game, so I can start shooting apples. Oh yeah, I don't know, I'm not like Legolas or anything. I'm not the greatest of bowsmen, but I hit some apples this time, which is fantastic. Usually I don't hit any, so oops, farewell. All right, so I just want to show you kind of a visual of what those few little lines of code we did, or the few little lines of code that I used were only exaggerated slightly more for this kind of experience. And I didn't even create any of the art in this scene. This is all provided by the asset store. I'm going to take this off now. And if you have questions, then please ask questions about Unity or any kind of stuff. I'm going to be here all night, obviously. I'll be here until the end for you guys, and I'll answer any technical questions, general questions. I'm not done yet because I'm now going to show you ARKit. But this is a Windows machine, so it actually doesn't build from a Windows machine to an iPad. So what I've done is I've actually done it on my Mac because I use both. For work, I'll use my Mac to work around with when I'm in commute, and then when I have a desktop for when I'm working on straight VR things. So I'm going to open up here another project. So this is actually really basically just the SDK that comes from Unity to be able to create ARKit. So if I go in here, you'll see I actually have a scene already open. It's set to 2D, but I want to show you on a different route, and there's nothing in the scene. And that's because ARKit is mostly provided by what shows up on the screen, right, which is the pass-through camera, so we can see the world around us.
Remind people what ARKit is again.
Oh, yeah, right. So ARKit, by the way, which I didn't even describe, ARKit, like AR Core is also another one of these, is an augmented reality. It's basically used to be able to bring, so virtual reality brings or takes away the real world and puts you in the virtual world. Augmented reality uses the real world and brings the virtual into it. So we're going to use a kind of ARKit, which is what called planes detection, AR, and it can see surfaces. It figures out what surfaces are to be able to orient itself in space. So this is a huge leap forward from when I was first working in AR because we didn't have planes detection. We were kind of relying on a lot more marker detection, and marker detection is still available if you want to do that kind of marker or detection. But the nice thing about it, planes detection, is that you can like teleport yourself in space. So you can do those pans you see in movies, and you can actually zoom into objects. Whereas before you were relying on the gyroscope to be able to just kind of look around the scene and not really go into things. But now that's possible with things like ARKit and AR Core, and HoloLens does this too out of the box. So what I'm going to do is show you this. I just got this off of the asset store. The wonderful thing about the asset store is it's so easy to use. And this is a Unity provided kit. This is AR kit. It's just using a link into, oops, there it is. Unity AR kit plugin. You can download it yourself to get started. And in order for this to truly work, you need to make sure you have a Mac. And all these things are free. You need to make sure you have a Mac. You have Xcode 9 or greater. You have iOS 11 or greater on your, okay, the only one that's not free, on your iPhone 6 S or better. So you need to make sure that you have those 4 things. So you can't really do this on a Windows machine, which is why I can't demonstrate building it from here. But once you do it once, it's a little bit complicated the first time you do it, but once you do it once, it's really easy downhill from there to be able to build into it. So I'm going to show you what it looks like. This is the code. I basically just used one of the plugins, opened up my AR kit scene, and then from here it's created this wonderful scene that almost all of this is them. I wrote a little bit of code in here to add a little bit of flair. And so from here we have the most important part, and the part that you're going to interact with most is really just these camera parts events. So you're actually querying the camera to see what you hit on the other side for distance wise from yourself. So I'm just going to show you what it looks like. So let's pull up here a reflector. So I'm going to show you on the screen. All right, I'm ready. All right, thanks, Lou. Excellent assistant. And here we go. Oops. So you can see it's made with Unity. This is the iPad showing here, and now I'm seeing infinity here. Whoa. I put the circuit stream in this just to show you that it places objects there too. And you'll see these yellow dots that appear. These yellow dots are it detecting the environment, trying to figure out what it's looking at. And you'll see this blue square appear. This is the plane. It's detecting the table as an object. So if I move around, it actually detects more. That's Liz over there. Liz is handling all your comments, so ask questions and of Liz, and Liz will send them forward to us. And so what I can do here is just drop cards on this table right now. So you'll see I can zoom into these cards, come out of them. These are basically on level with the table because of the way the AR kit works. And it's detecting these planes, can detect the floor really well. There's Lou's shoes. And then there's the lighthouses. I just take you a tour of the room. So you can see it's detecting another plane, so I can place these objects. And occasionally we get it wrong, but for the most part, you can see it's almost perfectly accurate. It's tracking these objects as though they're actually on the table. So there's a lot of cool events out right now for people creating AR. Oops, I'm going to close this. Yeah, sure. So from there, you can see what it looks like to actually create an AR application and how simple it is. That was purely, really at the base of it, that was me just using AR Kit and then taking the steps to build it along into the iPad. AR Core is also coming out. It's actually ingrained into Unity now, which is fantastic. And the nice thing about Unity is they're abstracting out a lot of your work. So although I use the SDK to use the Vive there, now I use for most of my projects and contracts, I build for using what's called the Unity XR libraries. And those will help me build for abstracting out tons of different headsets without ever actually entering or working on them separately. I can just work on them in once, and then it'll build to the Vive, build to the Rift, build to the Gear. And then also they're trying to do the same thing, abstract out for AR, so we have the kind of a similar platform to work on with AR. All right, so I'm going to hand you back over to Lou, who's going to give you insights into the industry and a bunch of where AR and VR are going, and a bunch of other cool little facts and things about it. All right, Lou, here you go.
Awesome, thanks a lot, Jay. So that was obviously just a quick demonstration about how you can get started with Unity building for the HTC Vive or for an iPad or an iPhone. If you guys don't have a Vive or if you don't have an iPad or an iPhone, we just picked 2 products. We could have used an Oculus, we could have used a Samsung Gear VR, we could have used Google Cardboard. You don't even need a headset to get started. So if you guys want to get started with virtual reality today, you can literally get started just with Unity. And that's what we're trying to show here, is that Unity really is the umbrella for all the different virtual reality headsets. So this is the tool that you need to learn and that you need to use to learn virtual reality basically. So we'll send out all these downloads after the stream. So this one being virtual reality, and here's all the platforms for augmented reality. So from left to right, you got the iPhone there, you have an Android, and then you've got headsets like the Microsoft HoloLens for augmented reality. So Unity is the industry standard. Unity is your go-to. That's what we're teaching in the course. That's what Jason was just using. Really, that's our strong recommendation. So we've shared some technical stuff. Now I want to go kind of back to the business side. What, how many headset sales are out there? What's the opportunity for you to take advantage of if you're starting and publishing your own app? So in terms of job postings, if you guys are looking to move into this industry, job postings were up over 800% last year for virtual reality. We're really just on the upward slope of this trajectory or curve. So, if you think about it in terms of cell phones, if you guys remember those like giant old cell phones that were like the size of a brick and you could smash a window with, I mean, more or less, that's pretty much where we're at in VR's trajectory. We're nowhere near the iPhone. We're nowhere near the touchscreen yet. Most major companies are investing in virtual reality, everything from Apple, Google, Facebook, Disney, Sony, Samsung, and are hiring virtual reality developers, designers, storytellers, content creators, consultants, a whole range of different fields and opportunities. So to give you guys perspective of the market, this is ground zero. This is where you start. Mobile virtual reality, so that's VR powered by a cell phone, Google Cardboard, Samsung Gear VR, Google Daydream. There's 15 million headsets. So that's the number, that's your baseline, that's ground zero. Basically, that's the market size for you guys. So I hope you can tell kind of how excited I am, and that's because it's already big and it's growing every single day. Even, during this webinar, more and more virtual reality headsets get sold, which means there's more opportunity for people creating content. Show you guys the other side of the fence, PC and console virtual reality, so headsets like the HTC Vive, like the Oculus, PlayStation VR. There's about 2 million headsets out there, and Vive has announced they're selling roughly about 1,000 headsets a day. So again, today is November 16th. We have a course beginning on November 28th. That is 12 days, so between now and our course, that's about 12,000 new headsets, which means 12,000 more customers and people added to the market. In terms of augmented reality, the market is even bigger. There's about 300 million iPhones that are now running iOS 11. And that you could use with Apple's AR kit. So if you're interested in augmented reality apps, that's the size of the market. There's also over 1,800 growing VR and AR companies. We'll share this link so you guys can check them out at the end of the workshop. And these are some of the partners that we work with. So Oculus, Vive, Google, as well as a bunch of smaller startups and studios. So we've really focused on Unity today. Unity is truly the industry standard and the best tool to get started with if you're doing this for your business, if you're doing this as a designer, developer, content creator. They have a bunch of free tutorials which we would recommend. We'll send these links out at the end of the workshop. Unity is free to install, so check out the documentation if you're just getting started with Unity. Check out some of their tutorials. It's a really powerful tool. We use it, and we can't speak highly enough of it. If you guys like what you've heard today, and you want to kind of get your learn virtual reality and get jump started, we do have an online course beginning on November 28th. So I'm going to share a bit of details about that. The biggest benefits are that we can take you kind of through beginner, intermediate, advanced. Make sure that you're working hands-on, working with professionals one-on-one, and that that we're providing actually a certificate at the end of the course, so you can come out and, again, whether that's doing something internally or transitioning to this field or building your own products, that you've learned efficiently and effectively. So in the course, we cover in detail how to use Unity for making VR and AR apps, how to use C#. It is 3 hours weekly for 10 weeks, so it's a part-time course. Then there's 1 hour every week for one-on-one help, and that's really what makes us unique. A lot of companies out there won't invest the time in working individually with their students, but like we've been saying this whole workshop, your success in VR is really what we pride ourselves on. So your success is our success. We have 2 streams for the course, one for newbies and another for people with programming experience. So don't worry, even if you're brand new. I just want to remind you guys and restate that no previous experience is required, and you don't need some fancy high-end computer. You can have a Mac or a Windows. Pretty much any laptop will work with Unity. And same goes for headsets. You don't need a headset to start the course. Bare minimum, we'll get you started with a Google Cardboard. And then if you do have a headset and you want to start working on that technology or that platform, we can work with pretty much any headset or any platform out there. For the November 28th course, there's about 5 spots available. We like to keep the class sizes small so that we can keep it personal. These spots will fill up quickly, so I'm going to send a link here if you guys want to check that out. Before I do, I mentioned at the beginning of the workshop that we're going to share a special discount. So we're discounting the price of the course from $2,500 to $2,000 for everyone who's tuning in tonight. So quick recap, $2,500, you're saving $500. That's if you register before November 23rd. So if you guys like what you've heard, you want to learn virtual reality, you want to jump in, you have a week to save on that discount. And we do have a financing 6 and 12 month option. So you can always send me an email. We can get you put on a financing plan if that might help. So all you have to do to register is place a $75 deposit. You can do that on our website. Bring up that famous hockey quote again. Again, we're Canadians, so listen, guys, the timing is right. The timing is now. If this is something that you want to do, go for it. Jump in now, whether it's for business, whether you have an application idea in mind. You're going to miss all the shots that you don't take. So now is the time. Go for it. We welcome you into this industry. It's fun. It's exciting. There's lots of big companies investing in VR. There's lots happening. More headsets are getting sold every day. So the timing is perfect to start in VR now. If you have any questions about the course, about pricing, about financing plans, if this might be right for your business, if you have any questions at all, feel free to email me at lou@academyofvr.com. I'd love to get to know you guys, love to answer any of those questions, and we'd love to have you enrolled in the course. So that officially wraps up our formal presentation. Thank you guys very much for tuning in tonight. Thank you very much for your time. It's been great kind of running this workshop. Like I mentioned, we'd love to get to know you guys some more. What we're going to do now is Jason and I are going to take some questions. So anything at all you want to know about virtual reality, about the industry, technical questions about Unity, about the course, about headsets, toss it into the comments, and we're just going to go through the comments one by one.
Okay, awesome. We have a ton of comments already, questions already.
Pardon?
People want to see your face.
Oh, yes. Okay. And then we're just also going to blow this up.
Okay.
All
It's weird looking at myself.
right.
Okay, so.
Is that okay, Liz? Actually, we'll find out. Sorry. Go ahead.
So now we're gonna take all the questions. You guys have been asking great questions throughout this time. I've seen a lot of interest. These are all awesome. I'm gonna break it down a little bit, so I'll read these out. We'll go through one by one from the order of the first ask all the way to the end. So the first is from Tempest Panther, and he's asked, how hard is it to get registered with VR companies as a developer? Actually, I have a multi-part answer for this. First of all, you don't really register with companies to be a VR developer, but that said, if you just look up VR jobs, there's actually sites for this, VR jobs specifically. You can find a lot of jobs out there. If you're talking about for contracts, generally speaking, you can also find contract work. There's great job companies out there. You can use all your regular channels to look for jobs, but on top of that, just go to VR meetups. If you go to VR meetups and things like that, you'll meet a lot of people who are interested. Their companies are looking for things. People come to VR meetups when they're trying to figure out how the industry works and whether they want to build something out on their own.
Yep.
And also look up the companies in your city, wherever you are,
Yep.
that have that do teach it. On top of that,
Yep.
a good portion of the students that we have are actually businesses that the internal people have gone to the company and been like, hey, I think VR can help us in this way. And then they'll want to build out an application or prototype for that. So then they'll test it and they'll take it to their, their boss or whoever it is, and then they'll usually give them some time to be able to build it or do something along the lines of create or generate something that you can test and try. And that's one of the best ways. Like, there has been an incredible amount of people with different interests here, and you can see that it's there's the scope and the variety of things you could do with VR are just, they go above and beyond what you can kind of even imagine. Like, everybody has something different they can do to it. So, registering with companies isn't like normally how companies do it. They'll go through a hiring process, and their hiring process is like call you in. Unless I'm missing the way this question is being phrased, you just apply like you normally apply, but they'll post VR jobs. So like even companies that don't have any VR gear right now, like Amazon has tons of VR postings. Like there's tons of companies out there that don't know what to do with VR, so they're posting VR jobs but not producing anything right now. So I think there's probably more VR jobs out there than you realize. If you just take a look on big company sites. There's a follow.
Amazon does everything. I mean, maybe Amazon has a VR headset.
Oh, okay. You're asking like how you register to be able to develop. So good question. So the real question is way more technically specific. So if you want to develop for like PlayStation, you need to register to be able to develop for the PlayStation. That is the only one you need to do that for.
Yeah.
So Cardboard, VR, Daydream, Vive, Oculus, all of those you don't need to register. You can just start building for them immediately.
Like tomorrow.
Yeah. PlayStation is just slightly different than the rest of them. So PlayStation, you need to register as a developer and get their developer toolkits to be able to do it. But you can do it through Unity. But nonetheless, you do have to do a special like separate thing to be able to develop for PSVR.
Just for PlayStation VR though.
Yeah.
All the other headsets wide open. You could start tonight, tomorrow.
Great question. Sorry, I didn't understand it properly the first time.
It's all good. I think we covered a lot of good ground with both halves.
Okay, next question was by Varric3D. I hope I'm getting his names right. Have you looked at Sansar? I literally looked at this because you asked that question. I had not seen this before. It's cool. I don't know how to approach it. I'll take a look at it over the next few days, see what I can see about it, and talk about it maybe the next one of these guys. Yeah, it looks kind of like a bit like blocks, but I couldn't tell whether it's for making art. But anyway, it's pretty cool. Did you get a chance to look at it?
No, I didn't, but I can check it out later. Sansar sounds cool.
Tacky Cat asked, what program would you recommend using for young children, 2nd to 6th grade, as a good introduction? I'm assuming this is an introduction to programming and not to VR. If it is to VR, normally, like Oculus throws a big warning and says, don't show kids this, don't put this on their head for too long, because we don't really know the effects of VR on kids and what it does for perception. It does a little bit different, a little bit of a different effect when you're wearing a headset and seeing the world through a headset. So there's some risk. My undergrad was in psychology, so like that was a focus of one of my focuses on it. So what? Do you have any good ideas for introductions to programming?
Yeah, maybe like if you want to get started with programming, you could use like a couple languages like Logo or Basic.
The classic is Scratch, so that's like
Scratch.
A visual programming language.
Yeah, I think those are all good starts.
There is actually this guy named, if I can't remember what program he wrote, his name's Jason Madar, not me. So if you get a chance, maybe you can ping him on LinkedIn or something. But he made a program for teaching kids how to code.
Cool.
And it's fantastic. I had a chance to play around with it. It actually does VR code development. And it takes you through, one of the hardest parts of VR is like this little loop. And it really helps kids a lot for it. So if you're at that age, that's a good chance to do it. That said, I do have some students who are 15-ish, but maybe that's a bit old for them. I'm not sure. All right, so does Unity currently support Oculus? Create binaries after the Oculus headset from a dev standpoint, and that's from Master Samus. Nice, good choice. Yes, absolutely. Unity for any Oculus, Gear, VR, for Rift, you can build to it. I'm assuming eventually Go. Right now, it's all hidden, so what happens with Go, I'm not sure. But yeah, you can build to Oculus. You can build to their store. You can build and sell it on their store if you want to. And so it's really easy. Like you saw, I didn't actually show you there, but if you want to build something, you just go File, Build Settings, or Build, and then you'll see it pop up there. And you just select which platform you want to build to, and you hit Build. And for anything on Mac or PC, it's really easy to just transfer and build to those. and then there's a few extra steps that we can obviously help you with if you have questions, or I think Lou sends out some more details on that kind of stuff.
Yep.
For if you're building to mobile, that's a little bit of a different step.
Next question is from
Okay, whoa, we're down here.
Imer Pacheco. So Imer, sorry if I mispronounced that. He is asking, how is the Vive connected to the computer? So the Vive is really just connected through a wire which has a USB and then an HDMI cable. So nothing fancy there, just USB, standard old USB and HDMI.
Yeah, it's just a pre-built that comes with the Vive. And it's just plugged in, yeah. Although the Oculus is different, it has more USB plugs. So if you have a computer that has limited USB plugs, you probably want a Vive. If you have lots, then Oculus works with more USB plugs. TakiCat asked another great question. Has anyone thought of combining this kind of tech with a 3D design program, 3D printer design program? There's actually a bunch. I don't think there's a direct link. Like, I don't see anyone do it directly, but you can produce what are called like meshes or models. You know, when you create a model, it produces a file type. So there's lots of different file types you can produce, and there's a lot of art style games that will produce these models. So if you do things like Tilt Brush,
or
Blocks does this.
what's the other one? Medium?
Oculus, Medium, yeah, that's it. Medium. I could not remember the name of this one yesterday. You
Where
can
you-
produce models out of those, and then you could use those models probably to be able to 3D print. There's like a step in between
You're
there.
3D sculpting in
Yeah.
VR, and then you can export them.
Yeah, there's like an extra step in there, but absolutely, those are some great platforms to be able to model. There's a few other modeling platforms out there. It kind of looks like Sensor might be a modeling style platform, but I'm not 100% sure because I haven't gone through it yet.
Tempest Panther asked us if, he said, do you know if there has been any update on when AR Kit, so again, AR Kit is the augmented reality platform for iPhone and iPad, will be coming to Android, or if there's an alternative in the works? So,
You want to cover that?
yeah, there is an alternative. The alternative is a platform called AR Core, and it's literally the exact same thing as AR Kit, but it's not from Apple, it's from Google. So AR Core, just do a search for AR Core, works for all Android devices.
Not all of them.
Oh, not all of them, pardon
Okay.
me. It
Same
works on Android devices.
It works on Android devices. So it's like AR Kit. You need usually a higher end phone to be able to make it work, because there's a lot of extra programming that's to be able to run in the background. They actually have separate chips to be able to handle this. So there are AR Core, as Lou was saying. AR Core is the Android version or the Google version of the augmented reality.
Yep.
And also, it's built into Unity now. So it's built in directly, so you can
Yep.
build to
Yep.
Android devices and use it.
So just type that into Google, AR Core with a C, and you'll see some of their examples of work in AR Core. It's pretty cool.
All right. This one. You want to try and pronounce that name?
Yeah, I believe the name is Dr. Quijano.
Well, that's pretty straightforward.
Oh, Quijano, pardon me. So Dr. Quijano, thanks Liz, is asking, is Unity more accessible or easy to use than Unreal? I know some of my students might feel intimidated with the windows.
Good question. Initially, when I started developing for VR, I used both, and I really do think that they're both great engines. Unity, I feel, is like more extendable. I can use it to other things, switch around. It is you see there are a lot of windows there, but a lot of the like menus and buttons that you push are actually duplicated just to give you lots of different accessibility for certain things. And each of those windows are very encapsulated. So I didn't move them around very much to show you like the different layouts you can make yourself. But really, those three major windows, the hierarchy, the scene view, and then your inspector, are the major things you'll interact with. All the other windows, they're kind of less used ultimately. There's the console and the project window in the bottom, but they're all encapsulated inside those windows. So if you just kind of learn what one does, it'll really help you along in the phase. Unreal does have some nice features as well, but they're also just as intimidating, I find, when you enter them.
But don't be intimidated. Like I think they're both great platforms. Yeah, it's not about being intimidated. It's just about having the right resources, using Unity tutorials, reading the right documentation, or again, if something, like a course is something you want to enroll in, like there's lots of information out there and there's lots of people that can help. So yeah, I mean, I tend to agree, like they're pretty similar, Unity and Unreal. You just have to have the right resources and then go for it.
Yeah, it doesn't, it looks scary, but I promise you after like a week or two of dealing with it, you'll really get comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Like even when you start going through those tutorials that Lou will send out, then when you start doing that, you'll be like, okay, this is not as scary as it looks.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing that Unity is producing is interactive tutorials.
Yeah.
And so those are very basic tutorials that take you through the editor in a very slow way at your own pace to figure out how Unity's windows work essentially.
Yeah.
Okay, the next question is, does Unity support both Java and C#? No, so Unity used to support JavaScript, and it wasn't really JavaScript, it's more like Unity script. It was like, use the syntax from JavaScript. Java is obviously very different than JavaScript, but I just wanted to clarify that because we get that question a lot. JavaScript is very different than, or Unity script is very different than JavaScript. It's serial instead of async, and there's a bunch of other different features. But no, you can't use Java in Unity, but C#, like I originally used to program Java for Android, and C# and Java are so similar in terms of language and syntax, and a lot of carryovers for the ideas between how they're used. So if you are new to C# but have a Java experience, it's going to be very easy for you to transition and pick up all the pieces to C#. It's a lot easier than transitioning from an object-oriented language to something entirely different.
And I'll just jump in here too and say, if you guys don't have programming experience, like we get a lot of filmmakers, artists, designers, people working in IT, or really a whole range of fields taking our course. So if you don't have any experience programming or in C#, don't let that be a barrier either. It's something that we focus on, is helping people either make the transition into C# if you're in that programmer stream, or begin to learn the fundamentals of C# in Unity if you're totally new to coding.
Yeah, we also go over architecture for the more advanced ones. Next question from Matthew Mubarak is, should you learn or hire an artist if you want to make VR games? It kind of depends. No, I would say you don't need to hire an artist for sure, unless you start really feeling like your game is progressing. Yeah. Like you can use the asset store for a lot of your production along the way to figure out, especially if you're learning. But also it is nice to learn how to do art and learn how it works.
Yep.
One of our instructors he does his full-time job other than instructing is making his own games and selling his own games, and he's made some pretty incredible games. If you get a chance, shout out to What the Box if you get a chance to play it. This is Dan, one of our instructors, made some pretty cool.
Yeah, check out What the Box
Rocket Fist
on Steam.
Yeah, on Steam. These kind of things, like he does his own art, and he learned to code actually. Oh, there goes my bag. He learned to code after making his own art. So you can go the other way as well. Learn to code and then learn your own art. And it really, knowing both sides of the spectrum will help you a lot. Like, it's not necessary, but it'll help you a lot for when you're trying to figure things out. And it's fun.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's free resources out there if you want to make your own modeling. Blender is free. It's the most common go-to for indies developers. But then, yeah, the industry kind of standard ones are Maya and 3D Studio Max.
Yeah, and it really depends too on what perspective. So like, if you want to dive into that question a bit more, again, send me an email. My email is lou@academyofvr.com. Because like, for example, if you're a business, like you may not need an artist because you may just, download those 3D assets just to create the prototype of your app. So it really depends on the context.
Also, if you're working for like companies that are architecture, AutoCAD and SketchUp, all those things can be transferred directly into Unity. You can build your file types to Unity.
Right.
It's not just modeling for like the classic 3D modeling games. A lot of people that I've worked with, a lot of projects I've worked on, use AutoCAD for especially for industry stuff or industrial things. So the next question is, oh boy, auth. Okay, maybe I said does auth. Okay, whatever. I'm just gonna leave it as is. That was close enough. Is there a VR arcade in North America? I went to one in Shinjuku, Tokyo, and yes, there's the Void.
The Void is in Utah.
Utah. So we had a bunch of Texans on earlier, and the Void is like basically the high end of VR arcade. They make their own stuff.
Yep.
They produce their own equipment.
The Void also went to Toronto.
Yeah, they have an arcade. In
There's a lot
Toronto.
of VR arcades actually,
Yeah,
and there's one in Seattle. There's a whole bunch in a whole bunch of different
There's
cities.
a couple new ones in Vancouver. I just saw. some
Vancouver. There's a
driving
company
through
called VR Studios, which like makes VR arcades and sells them to like entertainment, like theater chains and like malls. I think theme parks. There's VR arcades. I think everywhere.
I think it's a great option too if you haven't had experience with VR and you're really just trying to figure it out. It's a great chance to go and try and play around with it.
Yep.
Like, really, you can do so much more. Like the way the Void does it is they make the real world in the world around you also be in the VR experience. So their games that they write physically touch objects while you are in VR. It's kind of a cool experience.
I read this article too that location-based VR, so arcade, theme parks, malls is a great option just because if you're gonna get a lot of people in headsets, we're still kind of getting comfortable as a society with using virtual reality, but places, more private spaces like an arcade, people are more comfortable having 5, 10, 15 people all in headsets at the same time, which is
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, yeah, that's actually a good point. I never thought about it, the social aspect. Tempest Panther, nice name. Unity does not support building AR Unity does not support building AR on Windows, question mark, or is it because you use AR Kit and you can build only for iOS currently? Okay, so like we kind of covered this question earlier, you can build to AR on iPad, but you can also build to AR on Android, and on top of that, Windows kind of has their own version of it for not Windows, well, yes, Windows, Microsoft, for HoloLens and we didn't talk too much about the Windows headsets, but the Windows headsets work a little differently in that they do their own version of AR detection because they do inside-out tracking. So they're detecting the world around them to be able to track your head movement, and that's like the plane.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, totally.
So if he's using a Windows PC,
Yeah.
can he from a Windows PC build to this Apple?
Okay, not technically through technical channels. There is a plugin
Okay.
that exists to be able to do it.
So technically, straightforward.
Yeah.
If you're building for Apple, you need a Mac.
Yeah.
But if you're building for Android,
Yeah.
you could do from Windows.
Yeah.
So, but he or she can still build their application in Unity for ARKit, right? But they just have to have a Mac to test.
Yeah, exactly. So you can do all the build stuff in Windows. You just can't actually build it to the device through it. So, yeah, you can do it that way too. And also, like, you can build Android on Mac. We didn't cover that either, but you can build Android from Mac as well.
Okay.
So Mac, you can kind of build anything too, but Apple's kind of like proprietary in their stuff, so they don't let you technically build to their devices from Windows.
Right.
Good question too. Jason Sadler asked, is this workshop only going to show off Unity? Oh, it was a bit late for this question. I've been using Xcode in my training so far for ARKit. So like I said, Unity actually builds to Xcode. When you are building a project to test on your device, Unity doesn't produce it directly from their engine. They actually build an Xcode project, and then you send it to your device from there. So you can, if you want, dive into the ARKit code or AR code there. The nice advantage of Unity is that AR code and the project that you work on is very translatable to producing it on an Android or AR Core. Whereas ARKit, or Xcode, that's a lot more complicated to be able to then build to an Android device because you're gonna have to basically make it compatible just algorithm-wise. And you can't even use the ARKit. So there's a lot more complication between using, if you wanted to build from Xcode to also then build for more than anything just that are not iPads or iPhone. So yeah, the short answer is you can. We did not talk about Xcode. That's because it's really just a lot of it is developed for anything that's Apple related, and we like to cover all our bases in this case. Whoops, did we skip ahead?
No, we're at 15.
15, okay. Yep. Harsha Sadhakara, I'm so sorry about how to pronounce that name. How are Visual Studio and Unity related? Visual Studio is the IDE, what's called an IDE. It's an interactive developer environment. This is where you can code, and what it'll do is it'll help you do things like it has a link to the Unity library. So if you type in like Unity dot or like Unity Engine dot, you'll see a bunch of options that appear. So it basically will autocomplete for you. It'll do all the features. Visual Studio, you do the scripting backend in Visual Studio, and that allows you to be able to use that code inside Unity. So if you double click on any of the scripts inside Unity, it'll just open up Visual Studio for you. You don't have to like make all these links or make your own project. It's all handled by Unity, but it
So when
allows
you
to
download
link
Unity, you get Visual Studio. They're just connected, right?
yeah, for Windows. If you're on a Mac, then it'll be MonoDevelop, which is also a great IDE.
Different name, same concept.
Yeah, so different features too, but yeah. And then there's also, if you wanted to use Visual, if you're really a Visual Studio fan, there's also Visual Code for Mac if you want to do that. And they also have the Unity link libraries there through some great plugins.
Cool.
I can't remember the name of the people who made them though.
Pritpal Singh asked, I'm an architect and use 3D models, but he's saying he's not a good programmer. So can I create immersive experiences? So yes, we've actually had some architects take our courses. It's okay if you don't have programming experience. Really, you just have to have the mindset that you can learn Unity and that you have the will to learn. If you have that will, we can help you, and we can help you as an architect create some virtual reality experiences. So if you want to learn virtual reality, you can.
And absolutely, it is. Architecture is one of the kind of easier ones for you to be able to test and build. You can get your architecture experience in there as long as you've done it in something like SketchUp or AutoCAD, which we mentioned before. Building that into Unity is just basically putting the model in there. And you saw how easy it was for me to get into the environment. And then we teach you how to walk around and do all that later. But that's how quickly you can get into the environment and look at your experience in VR.
Yeah.
And show your clients if you want to do it. And like Lou said, we've had a lot of architects that do that kind of stuff. And it is cool. It's a very cool experience to see what it looks like.
Yeah. Next question is from VarK3D, or maybe it's Varek3D. So Varek3D is asking, is ZBrush a good program for making content for augmented reality? So Varek3D, I'm just going to give you a very simple answer. We could probably go into details about using ZBrush and about some technical details, polycount and everything. But I'll just say that yes, you could totally use ZBrush, which is a 3D modeling program, to make content for augmented reality. By content, I mainly just mean 3D models. So if you wanted to make some things in ZBrush and you were conscious of the poly count, you could totally export those and import them into Unity, and whatever you make, all of a sudden you have a 3D model in augmented reality.
Yeah, absolutely. So ZBrush is actually very common in the industry too, especially for making details. So yeah, you can use ZBrush, the short answer. There are just some graphical restrictions for what you're building.
Next question is from Deb June, and Deb June is asking, what does your course have you build to start programming? I haven't coded in a while. Do you think I could take the course for developers even though I'm rusty? Jay, what do you think?
Absolutely. So it's designed around learning.
I'll scroll up so you can read it.
Oh, thanks. It's designed around teaching, basically getting the basic input into VR so that you can kind of learn simultaneously to actually working with VR. You learn how to code the building blocks, so the building blocks of coding and the steps along there. The first couple classes are spent making sure that you, for the beginner stuff, is spent making sure that you understand the interface of Unity, and then following that, we take a very gradual approach to coding development. So we introduce one new concept or a few new concepts each time.
Yep.
And it's just a very gradual.
So it's very hands-on, and it's very actually applicable. So using C# and using Unity to actually visually see what you're doing. So that way you can actually grasp learning Unity and learning C# if you haven't coded in a while.
Cool. Pritpal Singh asked, can we detect beacons in VR AR?
What's beacons?
So, good question. I probably should answer that question first. So, beacons are Bluetooth devices that can be recognized, like their distance from your phone, but it's not like super accurate. You can't really pinpoint. I worked with a bunch of companies, worked on a lot of beacons for museum software, and the thing about beacons is it's not accurate. So, using it in AR VR, you mostly probably want to use it as a trigger. because otherwise you have to either do some kind of marker detection to really detect where it is. It might be great in AR if you were doing kind of like tours for if you walk in, a beacon might trigger something, or you could sell beacons to somebody to do trigger for their showing off whatever they have. But beacons really are just, they're little devices. You put them on places and your phone detects when it's close to them. And if it's using a program that detects when it's close to it, it can kind of usually detect how far it is from it. But that's really influenced by the surrounding physicality of the room you're in, whether you're in the open or not. And so it's not like a perfect accuracy. So it makes it difficult to use other than in using it as a trigger. Like, oh, I've entered this room, something can happen.
Interesting use case. Like, we would love to hear more about kind of what your idea is, Pritpal Singh. If you want to send me an email at lewd@academyvr.com, and we can kind of maybe dive into your idea a little deeper. So the next question, I want to break this up into two parts. It's from Arshan INC. And Arshan INC is asking, does Unity support Windows mixed reality? Or do you have to use the creators update? So I'll let you answer that first part.
So now, if you're using 2017.3, so you have to use the beta of 2017.3, and it's integrated into Unity. So you should be fine on that front.
So yes.
You still need Visual Studio because you still build it that way. So you should be fine. Second part?
Okay, it's a three-part question.
Oh, this is
So
three parts. Wow.
first, so yes, Unity does support Windows mixed reality headsets. Unity supports all the
but
headsets.
you have to use the latest version, 2017.3.
Right, which is free, which is available. We can help you get set up on that. We have a couple students enrolled in the course who are building for Windows mixed reality. That's Microsoft's new headset. We can definitely help get that set up, or you can get that set up.
But you also need the Windows 10 version with the creators updating it. Yes, you also need that. So you need Windows 10, but you don't need that part of it, so to speak. It's actually just there so you can build to it. If that's what your question is. No, you don't actually need the libraries to specifically interact with. Okay, second one is, can I use my Jetson TX1 to combine image recognition with augmented reality? I actually don't know what a Jetson TX1 is. But that said, yes, you can use image recognition. I've on many occasions used OpenCV to write image recognition software inside of augmented reality cases. On top of that, you can use Vuforia, which is integrated now into Unity and makes that a lot easier than writing it yourself from OpenCV. But yes, short answer is yes, you can use image recognition. Not sure what a Jetson TX1 is. I apologize for that. But you can use there are other ways to do it. If Jetson TX1 doesn't work, there's the OpenCV. You can build that into Unity. You can write your own plugins in Unity and C++ if you want to. I didn't even approach that topic today, but you can if you're really familiar with C++, or if you're really into Java and want to develop that way. As long as you can build down into machine code, then you can actually use that. So if you want to write your own special stuff for Android, sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. And then also there's Vuforia built into Unity now, and Vuforia does marker detection and it's limited, but it does some object recognition itself as well.
It's an AI supercomputer.
Oh, it's
an AI supercomputer.
Awesome. Gotta get my hands on one of those.
So, and last question was, can you use ARKit using Ubuntu operating system? Can you?
I don't know. I've actually never developed on Ubuntu. I know that there is, as of like this past year, Unity allows you to build directly on it. So I don't know if you can build it, but because it's under the same realm as Mac, maybe. I mean, what I said before too is that there are ways to build from Windows to ARKit and to a Mac. So I'm sure there's ways to do it
From Ubuntu.
Ubuntu as well. Yeah. So.
Tempest Panther, next question, number 21, is asking, what's the average price for a VR dev kit? Or can you develop using a retail headset? So, okay, so you're asking essentially about price. So, really the price varies. If you want to start in virtual reality today, you don't need a headset. So you can actually start at $0. Then you could go up to Google Cardboard. So if you want to start with Google Cardboard, it's $15. Samsung Gear VR is $80. Same with Google Daydream. Oculus is coming out with Oculus Go. It's $199. Regular Oculus is $399. Vive is $599. So you don't need to buy a dev kit. You just need to buy either a Vive, an Oculus, a Google Cardboard, a Samsung Gear VR, a Samsung phone,
Yeah.
an iPhone. There's really like the price scales, and you don't even need a headset. You could download Unity for free today and start with nothing. You don't need a fancy computer for the most part, unless you're actually running like Oculus or Vive. You don't need a dev kit. You just basically develop on all the commercial level headsets.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's right. Also, the other thing, the only one that there's really still dev kits for is the HoloLens.
HoloLens, yeah.
So the other thing, mostly it's just retail, and you're developing for retail versions.
Yep.
Which is great. It means you know right away that whatever you build works on the retail.
Yep.
Next question by Roll Kato Batres.
Nice.
Can AR detect body parts and not just planes? For example, if you want to superimpose a product on someone's body, a la Snapchat. Good question. So Snapchat wrote their own stuff to be able to do the way they do it. But yes, there are things to do that. It's not perfect. Like AR detection, obviously, is not the same. If you want to do that for reals, you can always use.
Could you help him do that?
Yeah, of course.
We could help you do that.
But what you can
Sounds fun.
do is also use Connect if you want to. Connect is the classic. They're putting it out of condition, or putting it out of commission. But if you're doing in-person spaces, then
Is he using? Did he say if he's using? Are you using AR Kit or AR Core? Like,
no, he said AR.
oh,
AR
just
in general.
augmented reality.
So AR, there's different types of AR, and the AR Kit and AR Core don't really do body detection, like detecting face and stuff. There's other things, lots of OpenCV.
Will
plugins that
they
allow
in
you
the
to do that.
future?
I'm not sure. Maybe, maybe not. Mostly it's designed around doing the positional based stuff, so you can actually detect your space. I suspect personally that they're all using it so they can do mobile positional tracking.
And
for VR.
Apple actually acquired, like if you're talking specifically about body parts, Apple actually acquired a company which does facial recognition. I forget the name. I think it's called Face Shift. Yeah, Face Shift. You can Google that. And for the latest iPhone, I believe it was iPhone 10. They're showing how, similar to Snapchat, you can take like a recording of yourself and then turn yourself into an emoji or into a character. So what you're thinking of is probably possible. And I know Apple is integrating that. Have you seen that Face Shift or
No,
what I'm
I
talking
haven't
about?
heard anything about it. No,
Okay, I'll show you after. It's really cool.
Cool. Yeah, so AR, like that, those detections, again, that's just normally based around plane detection, but there are other libraries that allow you and help you to do that. Elvis Tam asked, I am currently an SR or an SR UX senior. That's probably what it means. Yep. Senior UX design consultant, and I'm really interested in VR AR space. What would be a good transitionary role that is VR AR related? I have a lot of friends that are UX designers that actually work in VR, and the best place to really start a transitionary role. That's a good question.
Like you have, for example, he has a friend who's a VR UX UI designer at Microsoft, and he came from a design background. I believe he worked in animation for a while, and then he learned Unity. So he's not a developer per se, but he does understand Unity, and he uses Unity at work as a designer. So again, going back to what we recommend, Elvis, we would really recommend learning Unity, because in terms of UI UX designer, like if you're a designer in VR, it's still wide open, and there's lots of people in roles for virtual reality companies that are saying, okay, on a smartphone we know how to swipe and how to tap an app, and that opens it. Or for a web app, we know what's good UI UX design, but we don't know what that means in 3D space. So we don't know in virtual reality, how do you interact with menus, files, entertainment, games, business apps. So yeah, if you want kind of some more info, there's some great design videos, some great content. I could recommend you some articles. Elvis, send me an email. Again, my email is lou@academyvr.com. We could probably connect you also with some people working in virtual reality UI UX design, and to help kind of get you started.
The other thing, as Lou mentioned, this is we don't know that much about UX. Like there is a lot. We do a UX course specifically around that, but there is a lot that's just totally unknown about UX. So honestly, if you want to transition, I know you're a consultant, but you can usually, the best way to do this would be to test VR a bunch yourself.
Yep.
But then also, if you want to apply to companies or to contracts, you're competing against other people who don't really understand what VR is at this moment. but they're just kind of generating design and along with it and learning through what they're making.
Yeah.
So I would say don't be afraid of applying your current knowledge to try and get those contracts that are UX design.
And as a UI
VR.
UX designer, if you want to learn virtual reality and kind of accelerate your pace, like we'd love to have you enrolled in the course as a designer and teach you what we know about Unity and try to help get you kickstarted, basically.
Okay, I'm gonna take another approach at this name. I think it's Ot Hoth Hoth Hoth.
Hot, 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 hot. I think
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah. So Ot Hoth 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 asks, I'm a Star Wars fan, all right? You know, it's Hoth for me. Do you have a spreadsheet of resources that you mentioned during the workshop today?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Lou's going to send those out after.
Yep.
It's just a list of all the stuff we
Yep.
used and what you can help get you started on your own stuff.
Yeah, so expect some emails from us. We'll send all the resources mentioned today. We'll send you some more info about the course. If you guys have any questions after those emails go out, just reply to them and we can connect.
Dr. Quijano, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, nailed it. Are Blender assets compatible with Unity? Yes. So Blender is the popular one I talked about before for indie developers. The nice thing about Unity is they've been building out the models types they can take. So it used to be they only take .fbx, which Blender can build to .fbx, so you're totally fine on that front. But they've increased the range at which file types you can take for meshes. So more and more modeling softwares can directly import into Unity. So yes, absolutely for Blender. It's probably the most common for indie developers to produce their own games because it's free. So short answer is absolutely, yeah.
Jazzatopia just asked, how would a filmmaker use VR in films? I mean, that's really up for you to explore. If you have a creative idea, again, we would recommend learn Unity. That's your best process. That's what we're teaching in the course. And then you can, begin to create your own films or interactive applications, based off the ideas that you have. So Unity is your tool, and then what you do creatively as a filmmaker is really up to you. If you want to check out some companies doing work in film in VR, check out a company called Weaver. You can type that into Google, just WEVR. It's a company called Penrose. There's a company called Baobab Studios. They say it's like the Pixar of virtual reality. We work with a lot of filmmakers. A lot of our students are filmmakers. So it's a big question.
Yeah, I mean, recently they just had the first VR Oscar or whatever nomination. Or,
Oh, okay, cool.
win for that. And really, like VR, it's a new medium, right? So there's a lot of people taking different routes to this. There's a lot of like the transitions that you see in film now, the pans and stuff. All those have kind of changed for VR. And so
You worked in film, right?
yeah, I did film for about 7 years. Yeah. So really, like VR, depending on what kind of film you want to do, there's like obviously animation film, or you can still do the classical style film where you have a 360 video essentially and you're bubbling out. There's also stereoscopic 360 now. There's some artifacts involved in that, but there's one of the guys actually in the space that I work, the Cube, who is making 360 stereoscopic video, and he's doing a fantastic job. So really, you can using filmmaking in VR films is there's still a lot of carryover, like the screen wipes, the fades, how you do things, drawing attention. This is the big part: drawing people's attention to the action that you want them to see, not the kind of superfluous stuff you have to make the environment feel more incredible. All those things. A couple of my students have worked on pretty incredible 360 projects. I don't know if I can. I'm not going to say because I think they're working on stuff right now. So. Yeah, so there's a lot of 360 video that's still going on and stereoscopic 360. But then if you also like animation is obviously a big part of film in VR. And some of the most incredible VR experiences I've had, and ones that I always show people, are actually, you talked about WeVR, which is the blue, which is this underwater experience. And it is just a fantastic experience to take people through because they use VR so well.
Right.
Drawing your attention, the feeling of the course, the depth,
Right.
Everything is fantastic.
Totally. Awesome. I think that pretty much wraps up our questions. So again, guys, if you have if you have any more questions about the course, about the industry, about the technology, send us an email. Visit our website. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks for tuning in and tonight. Hoping you guys enroll. We'd love to get to know you and help you join this exciting industry.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Farewell.
So.